Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Roloff, Director of Member Engagement and Partnerships with ACLP. Welcome back to Child Life in Action. This is our video series where we highlight amazing work being done by child life specialists and share ideas and insights from our members. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by two new early career child life specialists. We're going to be discussing the transition from being a student in child life to being a professional and how some of the current events that have been happening in the world are impacting that transition. So before we get started, I would love for you both to just introduce yourselves. Why don't we go ahead and start with Karoline?
Hi, my name is Karoline Radka. I am a new child life specialist. I work at Children's Medical Center of Dallas. I serve the hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis patients, and we serve patients all the way from infancy until age 21.
Great. And Holly?
Hi, I'm Wyatt. I am also a new child life specialist. I took my child life internship in fall of 2019 and recently started a PRN child life specialist job at Medical City Children's Hospital in Dallas, Texas. I'm currently not working right now because of the pandemic and everything going on. So I'm in just a standstill right now with my career.
Sure. Well, like I said in the beginning, we're going to be talking today a little bit about, just in general, transitioning from being a student in child life to being a professional, but then also some of how, the pandemic and other events have been impacting that. So let's rewind back a few months to maybe, January, February, that window. How are things going for you at that point? Being out of school, out of internship, and starting to be more independent in your child life work.
I think for me, so I also completed my internship in the fall of 2019. And I had a big eye-opening experience of realizing that I wasn't going to get a job right after internship. Like I kind of had always envisioned it to happen. But through that, I was able to interview and apply to several different places and gain experience even just through that. And then ultimately, I was able to have the opportunity to be offered a job here at the beginning of February. And that was after having to wait, which I felt like was forever long. So even just as a normal, no COVID new specialist, that was something that I didn't think about going into becoming a professional. But I was able to start my job right at the beginning of March. And so it was just right before everything happened with COVID and everything shutting down. So
you really only had a couple weeks there.
Yeah, things were kind of a little bit normal for a while. I was babysitting, just doing all of the normal things of getting settled in a new place following my internship. So, yeah.
Holly, what about you?
Awesome. Yeah, same with me, knowing that it was so competitive to get an internship and having finally completed that, actually looking towards the job field and looking at where I wanted to move and things to do so, along with Karoline, applying to different places and landing the PRN position. I was excited to get to do that, to get to grow more of my experiences and see different units and how they're run by different child life specialists and just get that experience getting to be hands-on in different units, furthering what I got to do during my internship. So I was excited for that. I made the move, started early in February, and went through orientation with the hospital. I had to be trained on every unit to go through what those child life specialists do, just so I would be ready to cover their units and see what a lot of their responsibilities were and what their day-to-days looked like. I was also getting to work weekend shifts in the ER, which was exciting because one of my rotations during my internship was in the ER, and I really enjoyed it. So I was just getting to start that. I believe I covered 2 or 3 weekend shifts before COVID happened. So I was kind of getting my feet wet, getting to learn some of the nurses and starting to advocate for my role as child life and do some interventions. So it was good getting to start, but right whenever I started is when everything shut down. So that was a little disappointing, but I think the transition was going well. I really enjoyed growing to be a professional during internship. And then I was excited to become independent and not be a student anymore and go in and start my own interventions. So it was going pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
And from talking to you previously, Holly, you mentioned that you just took your certification exam, and
Yes.
I did as well. And in that time, it was nice to be able to study without any extra kind of, obligations or anything. So I was studying for my exam that was supposed to be scheduled for March. And was it the same for you as well?
Me too. So I would go to work every day from like 8 to 5, and I would go and study for the rest of the night. Really studying every day, and then I found out it was pushed back, which I kind of thought it was going to be pushed back whenever everything started shutting down. So it was nice to have that extra time to really go deeper into textbooks and study more about in depth of theorists and things that I maybe haven't looked at a lot in the past, get a refresher on everything. So it was definitely nice to have that time to study. So I felt really prepared for that.
And I also, with that too, I also just felt very fortunate that the ACLP was very on top of us and providing us with the opportunity to continue to take it later as needed. For me, I was able to end up taking it remotely proctored, which, as we know, wasn't an option prior to that. And so having the opportunity to still complete that certification was definitely such a benefit. And I'm very appreciative of that as well.
Me too. I was relieved that we got to finish it because I didn't know how much longer we'd get to wait to take the actual exam. So I was glad for that. And I didn't have any troubles with the remote proctoring. I know some people had some technical issues, but it went smoothly for me and it went really well. And it was nice getting to take it in my familiar environment. So I took it where I'd been studying, so it wouldn't be as different. So I enjoyed it for sure.
So it sounds like there's some congratulations in order for both of you, if I'm reading between the lines here correctly.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
So you both alluded to this a little bit, but just wanted to kind of focus in a little bit more on, since the pandemic happened, how it's impacted you and your, your work life, you've both talked about being very new in your positions before this all happened, and just still kind of building those relationships, getting the lay of the land. And Holly, you allude to the fact that right now, your PRN position isn't happening.
Right.
So, can you just tell us a little bit more about how all this has impacted you?
Yeah, I'll go first. It's impacted me a lot, for sure. There's been a lot of unknown and still a lot of unknown going on, which was hard for me in the beginning. Going in with the mindset, moving to a new city, settling down there, just exploring that in my job, knowing that I was going to have some set schedules coming up in the future, and then getting the call that unfortunately those weren't going to happen was difficult because I'd already been prepping myself for that and what I was going to get to do in interventions and how I could be useful and successful on a certain unit. So that was difficult for me, having that taken away and just having a mindset of a plan, and then the plan kind of going away was a little hard. I ended up going back home for a little bit away from Dallas because it was on quarantine and lockdown and there wasn't a lot to do. But I actually fortunately got to start nannying back home, which is what I was doing during college. So those families have welcomed me back in, which has been nice to keep playing with kids and keep going and doing things during the quarantine. And something that I really enjoyed doing was webinars. I got to listen in on a lot of those, and that was really cool to see more of the child life community and talk to more people and hear some more information on what people were doing and how they were adapting to the change was really interesting. So just taking that stuff and knowing how maybe I can apply it when I can go back. So there's been a lot of unknown with that. Getting to study for the exam was nice, having that time. And also it's just kind of made me look at maybe some other choices of what I can do in the meantime. Like I have a bachelor's in child life, and I've been looking into getting a master's possibly, because I feel like now's the time. I have some time on my hands. So looking at possibly doing an online master's program. And whenever I get called back to start my PRN position again, I can continue to do that while working while I have the time. So it's definitely taught me how to be flexible and change plans a little bit and know it's okay to take a different route for a little bit than what I thought I was going to have. So lots of change and unknown, but knowing to use those child life skills and self-care to know myself a little more and figure out what to do next.
Karoline, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like mine is very similar to Holly in a lot of ways of, as a student, we have this mindset of, we have to do all of these things, practicum, internship, completing our eligibility assessment, and then taking our exam, and then we'll be good to go, and it will be a dream job and everything. And while this place, Children's Medical Center in Dallas, is my dream job, I did have to allow myself the opportunity to kind of grieve what I thought the beginning of my career would look like. And we know the importance of allowing ourselves that patience and that time. But at the same time, I also, was still trying to figure out even just how to be a new specialist in general. I think that there's also such a learning curve with that. And then on top of it, it was additionally COVID and figuring that out. So for us, our schedule changed to the reducing number of team members that were at the hospital at a time. So for me, we were there every other day at the hospital. And so I only got to see my kids every other day, which limited the amount of rapport I was able to build with them initially, the amount of rapport I was able to build with my staff initially, and then also just my child life teammates as well. I was so excited to be able to join a department and to join a team. And that also had to look a little bit different, but I do feel like I was able to receive so much support at the beginning of being a specialist, and especially in the midst of all of this. And we just created different ways to build that relationship. And it kind of, in a lot of ways, pushed me to be even more available than I already wanted to be on my unit. Being up there all the time, and Nurses Week was a perfect opportunity to really show some love to the nurses and get to know them a little bit more. But then it also just created opportunities to be more creative with how I could get to know my kids. And I do think it has made me already a better person, but also professional in the midst of all of this that's been going on.
You mentioned something there that as a student, you kind of have this idea of how working life is going to be, and you go through your internship, and I think it's a very common experience that at the end of the internship you kind of have this feeling of like, yes, I've got this, I know it, I'm ready. And then I think a lot of us in that first job, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to learn. And that's good. It's part of the process. It's part of making that transition. But certainly the added layer of pandemic and abnormal staffing, abnormal policy and procedure within the hospital, I can only imagine that extra layer on top of what's already a time of a lot of change, a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that was also so interesting was that while I was still learning, all of the new steps of how to be a specialist, and I was asking my teammates questions and everything, they were also still trying to figure out what their new normal as a specialist would look like too. So in a lot of ways, we were able to figure that out together because we were all new to the same experience and navigating that as well. So I would also say that that also impacted my experience as well.
So if you look back at your education and your clinical training experiences before this, are there additional things that maybe would have helped you feel prepared to make that transition into being a professional? Either before or accounting for the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's hard to separate those for you, given the timing, I think.
Right, for sure. Something I would say would have helped me is more clinical experience prior to my internship. My internship definitely prepared me well for entering the job field, and they gave me so many great experiences and knowledge during my 600 hours. I think I would have liked more clinical during my education in college. I know that I did complete my 120-hour practicum, but just seeing what the practicum students were able to do at the hospital I interned at, all the experiences that they had and got to do, I wish I had those experiences before going into internship. So maybe like a more streamlined practicum where all the students are experienced and exposed to some of the same familiar aspects of child life. So getting to do a little bit more with the kiddos, I think that would have been nice to have more experience. But I believe that my education was great. All the knowledge that I gained during my college experience was well applied to my internship, and that was really good. I was very thankful for the education that I did get, but I think definitely more experience clinically before internship would have helped me feel more prepared, because I'm someone who likes to have experience to back up what I do, which I know entering the job field, you can't prepare or experience everything that's going to happen because it's a hospital and things are new and different things are going to happen. So knowing that we can adapt those skills and experiences that I have had to the present.
I actually was able to complete my practicum here at Children's Health. And so that was definitely an added benefit in knowing a little bit more of what normalcy of the hospital environment and of the department looked like. And then I also, speaking on to additional kind of clinical experience, I've done several medical camps whenever I was as a student, whether they were through different organizations, different hospitals, but I also did some through this hospital and through a medical camp that we partner with here. And so that was definitely beneficial in making the transition a little bit easier, and in knowing what that maybe looked like in normal times, I guess you would say. But Holly was talking earlier about how you did an ED rotation. And I actually, during my internship, had the opportunity to also complete a 6-week ED rotation. And I would definitely say that was probably one of the best experiences as a student, because it did teach me to learn and to think more on the fly and to think more creatively with how to support and prep patients whenever things don't always look as conventional as you would maybe like them to look. It definitely helped me think a little bit more outside of the box, and the support I received during my internship also just helped with that as well.
So I'm curious if either of you have any advice for new child life specialists that are also making that transition for student to professional, or who are maybe a few steps behind but are looking with an eye towards making that transition soon.
Yeah. I just want to encourage all of you guys out there to just stay positive through everything. I know child life is a competitive field, and I know sometimes it can seem like you've given up hope on things and you've tried for different experiences that just haven't worked out. But just knowing that everything will work out the way that it's supposed to, and you will get those experiences that will definitely help you grow as a professional. Just remember to keep that passion and remember why you wanted to be in this career in the first place, and just how needed our role is, and looking towards the future goals and what you hope to accomplish as a child life specialist, and just keep going and don't give up and stay persistent and always search for new experiences, search to better yourself, always search for more knowledge and research that's coming out, always staying on top of things and staying current in the field. Get to know more people in the field. I know we have Facebook groups. ACLP is great about getting members to come together. So I definitely want to encourage you to reach out to other people, because odds are a lot of people are going through the same things that you are, having it be a very the structured path to become a child life professional. So definitely reach out to others. That definitely has helped me a lot during everything, getting to talk to other people going through the same things as me and have that support, because we're definitely in it together in this community. So keep your head up and keep going when times are tough. And I know right now everything's at a standstill, not knowing what it's looking like for internships. I know some of you guys you won't get that hands-on experience right now if some things are being canceled, but just keep pushing through and know that everyone's in the same boat right now with things getting maybe called off or the experience is not being there, and just know that there is that light at the end of the tunnel.
I would also say ask questions, always be open and ask questions. Like Holly was saying, that everybody's gone through the experience of what it's like to be a student going into being a new professional, whether that has been during a pandemic or not, but always be willing to ask questions and get the answers that you're looking for. I also, our program here provides individuals with a mentor, new specialists with a mentor, whether they are just entering the field or they're coming to our facility for the first time. And so I would also just encourage new specialists to find a mentor, whether it's at their hospital or at a different facility that they feel like they can have those open and honest conversations with, and be able to brainstorm different ideas and ask questions and everything. And then I think the last thing that I constantly have to remind myself of, and this was something that was so ingrained in me as a student, is just to give yourself grace. With one of my internship coordinators, she was talking to me about how you want to feel like by the end of your internship that you have arrived, that you know everything, and you want to feel so accomplished, and you should, but at the same time, we don't know everything, and we're going to constantly be learning, even from the time that we are new specialists all the way until I guess we're ready to retire. But constantly give yourself grace, especially in this time when it is crazy and different and there's a lot of unknown. Yeah.
I just want to tap onto two things that you each mentioned. Holly, you mentioned connecting with other professionals, and that's something that I've actually been really impressed with both of you about. I met you both through one of our member meetups. So, that's something that, as ACLP, we can't necessarily solve all the problems that the pandemic brings. We wish we could, but, there are a lot of other players involved, and we're each kind of playing our part. And one of ACLP's roles in all of this is to bring the community together. So, it was wonderful to meet both of you through a meetup. That's how we ended up having this conversation today. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely encourage others to do the same. Karoline, you mentioned, that you have a mentor within your department. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. For others that are, seeking a mentor, we do have a mentorship program through ACLP. The information's on the website. I highly encourage people that whether you're making this transition or any other transition in your professional life, it's a fantastic program where they'll match you with someone that has experience with the area you want to work on, whether that's transitioning from student to professional, or we've had people do it that are maybe becoming new managers or taking on additional responsibility. And it's a program that can grow with you depending on where you're at in your career. So definitely something to keep an eye out on whenever you're in these kind of periods of big change.
That definitely sounds beneficial.
So just in our last couple minutes here, I just want to check in on how you guys are doing personally. You've told us a lot about professionally how this is all going, but as we've been talking throughout this whole conversation, that transition to being a new professional is a time of big change, and add on top of that a lot of big changes that are happening on a global level, impacting people's work lives, personal lives, every aspect of life, really. So I just wanted to check in on how things are going on a more personal level.
Yeah, thanks. I'm very thankful for being able to stay healthy through all this, and not really knowing anyone that did come down with COVID-19, the coronavirus. So thankful that everyone that I do know is healthy. I know a lot of people are going through really hard times right now, and I'm thankful that even though I'm not technically working in a clinical setting right now, I did have some opportunities back home to keep that going. I will say it has been hard for sure, having a plan in mind and having that changed, but I'm very thankful for getting to go back home and refresh my mind and just remember what I'm doing and my goals, and move towards some new goals, since it was an awesome accomplishment getting to take the exam and pass it. So that was a good morale booster through everything, knowing that I came out of it certified, and just looking for now my next goal through everything. So it's been difficult some days, but I think it's definitely helped me gain some mental toughness and figure out more about who I am and my goals, and have just a relaxed time, because it was interesting having quarantine, because I've never really had time to just like sit and reflect. It was weird the first few days, just because I was getting to do full-time work, because I was orienting to the hospital. I know that I was signing on to a PRN job, which I know it could look like a lot of hours depending on when they needed coverage and not, but getting that time was, I think it was definitely needed to slow down from that busy pace, getting out of internship, because internship is tough and it is a lot with everything that you have to do in the clinical experiences, and it was awesome. And then looking for jobs right after, so I felt like I was always going, and now is the time to kind of stop and look at my life and kind of see what I've gotten to do, and not getting too worried about being at a standstill right now. So a lot of growth has happened during these few months of rest, and just kind of rejuvenating and renewing my mind to my goals. And it's been difficult, but I think it's also been a beneficial time to be still for a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of like you. I'm not a person who likes to sit still. I like to be able to have an action plan, and once I see a goal in my mind, I want to be able to work towards it. But I have had to rest a little bit more, and to reflect a little bit more. And I have just found myself very thankful. Very similar to Holly, I gratefully have not had family members or close friends that have been affected by COVID. But I know that people are there, and I want to be able to do my part. And so it has been difficult, because I've had to find a balance of, we are relational people, like we are just meant for relationship. And so trying to figure out what that looks like in this time of, being aware of how our actions have consequences, and but then also being able to meet the needs of our own personal beings, and our own mental health is so important. And so I've been trying to find a balance with that. And then also, since I have been grateful in being able to continue to work. It has also just kept me busy in that way. And I am grateful to be able to leave my house and kind of get away for a little bit and then come back and rest. But I, overall, I'm doing well. I definitely at the beginning, I think that I was struggling a little bit more as I was getting more adjusted to my job and everything. But since then, I think it also has just been so amazing to see like how the community and how the world has really come together, because there has never been a time, I guess, aside from other pandemics, but we have the use of technology now, so it keeps us a little more connected. But there's never been a time where the entire world has been affected by something like this. And so kind of being able to see how we are able to support, our neighbors across the world and even just in our own backyards. It just has been such a beneficial and reflective experience for me as well. Thanks for asking.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate your time, your candor, your thoughtfulness. It's clear you guys have been doing a lot of self-reflection, and it's just really impressive. So thank you for that. For everyone else, I hope, as with all of these, that this has given you something to think about, maybe some new perspectives, and we'll see you for the next Child Life in Action.